My favorite of the whole series, this is number 7. Her brother's name was James. This is a poem about Nara Burns. Too easy to lose yourself in war, youth first casualty. Mind, memories grind to powder, clouding reality. Smiles die quickly, hope fades fast, scars stay, honor and glory walk past. Child of humble farmers lost to invasion, her brother fought hard, died in the liberation. History recalls generals, rulers, battles lost and won. Great wars are ended by armies of no ones. Someday statues will serve as claim to fame. Blood-soaked soil is today's tribute. Her brother's name was James. Inseparable as kids, Nara and James never were alone. Play at the snake tree till their ma called them home. Dad taught farming, taught them pirate stories before bed. They'd rise before sun shone through clouds so red. A new day rising with hope rising alongside. One summer they fixed a warfighter headed for the skies. Grandpa's frame from Exo-Squad was worse for wear. Couldn't break orbit, the children didn't care. Playing wars of ages past, Neo-Rebels their favorite game. Years on, he and Nara would fight to save the galaxy. Her brother's name was James. Ma cried when she joined Exo-Fleet. Dad was sick with worry. Generations of family heard the call. Boys turned men in a hurry. Burns women stayed home, awaiting their returning. Nara rushed to the horizon, a heart yearning. Outcast at academy, a teacher was her only friend. She fell for Marsala, thought of him hours on end. He was leaving for active duty, needed a wingman. Her heart took flight when he chose her, never to land. He believed in Nara when no one did. Kept feeling secret, he was a soldier, she was just a kid. Politicians preached cause and destiny, called soldiers to war. Phaeton raised a secret empire grander than before. First strike took the homeworlds, her farm burned down. Searched for family, found tombstones in the ground. Someone lived to bury them, carved the names. The younger sibling formed a brave resistance. Her brother's name was James. He battled for Venus, saw the day of victory. Insurgents fought back, he joined his parents in eternity. Marsalis stood by as Nara cried with a hand on her shoulder. She was only 21, but losses made her much older. Neo-Sapien Empire was mighty, but fell all the same. A farm girl slew an emperor with one shot. Nara let him know. Her brother's name was James. Victory was short-lived. New enemies came from deep space. Peace was threatened to fade without a trace. Fleets gathered, formed a new alliance. Neos joined Terrans to stand in defiance. The war was longer this time, came close to annihilation. Nara ran to Marsala when they had won, full of elation. She had little fear going to war, stars, land, and sea. Trembled like a child when they wed aboard Resolute 3. Star-crossed, lost souls found a place their own. They left the fleet to fix up the farm back home. Dr. Algernon saved lives, reforged worlds torn apart. None miracles so great as giving this couple a new start. He changed Marsala's genes, blessed them with children. Mary and Livia have their dad's eyes. The boy is Nara's best friend. He and his sisters laugh, run to Snake Tree to play the old games. This family will live on in a galaxy at peace. Her son's name is James. I like that one. I don't like a lot of mine, but I really like that one. Nara Burns is the hero of the show, Exo-Squad. It can be argued because J.T. Marsh is supposedly the main character, but really it's her story. She's the first character you really connect with on a personal level because she's seen in the very first episode writing in a diary to her parents. And her brother ends up leading the resistance on Venus. And I just feel like the show is all about her, especially, spoilers, in one of the final episodes when she actually kills the bad guy, Phaeton, in the last episode. He's going to blow up the Earth and he's going to pull a lever and blow up the planet. And she just takes him out. Like, it's awesome. It's one of the coolest moments in any story. My history with the show goes way back. I was recommended to me by a friend named Israel Rivera in 1994, New Dorp High School, Staten Island. And he said, you would really like Exo-Squad. It's like G.I. Joe and Star Wars, but people actually die. Like, it's pretty cool. And that was intriguing to me. I felt, oh, I'll check this out. So what happened was I watched one episode. It was on Sundays at the time, 10 a.m. And I was sick one day. I was home, and I was watching it on Channel 9. I'm like, it was the 6th episode, Target Earth. And I says, oh, this actually looks very interesting. But then I forgot all about it, and I didn't keep up with it. It was on Sunday mornings. I didn't want to bother to set the VCR. It was annoying. So what I did was I discovered it again when it went to syndication weekdays. It started in the fall of 94. And one morning I turned it on. It was about 7 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, this looks pretty good. And it turns out it was the same show, Exo-Squad. And I said, this looks really good. I watched about 2 or 3 episodes. I said, you know what? I'm going to start taping this, which I did. And one thing that I thought was amazing about the show, which is how they do all television today, but back in the 90s, this was a pretty radical idea, especially for a children's show. The idea of connecting, this had never been done, at least in American animation as I knew about it. The idea of connecting every episode would continue into the next one. Because what they used to do is these shows of the 80s, now I love G.I. Joe, I love the Transformers, and a lot of people are going to be upset by this, but they were basically glorified toy commercials. The G.I. Joe that I really loved, as much as I loved the cartoon, I really liked the old comic book by Larry Hama. But they were big toy adverts, pretty much. And there wasn't really, the story was secondary to selling new toys. So every new season they would have all these new Joes because they needed to sell new dolls. And we all bought them because, you know, they were amazing. But this show wasn't so much interested in the toys or selling new stuff, even though, of course, they would have appreciated if more people bought the toys. Would have kept the show going a little longer. But it was just a show that was obsessed with great storytelling, and the animation was amazing. The voice direction by Wally, I think it was Wally Burr was the voice director. Voice direction was fantastic. The writing was great. The cast was great. A lot of great Canadian actors and character actors on that show. You can actually see some of them pop up on episodes of The X-Files when it filmed in Canada. And if you watch anything made in Canada in the 90s, especially genre stuff, you'd see a couple of these guys show up in there, and ladies. It was a great cast. The writing was good. I was studying to be a film critic in high school at the time when I first watched it in 94. And this show, also along with the independent wave of the 90s, really twisted my head into getting into screenwriting and into production, because I was watching the critics, I was reading all the critics, I was writing movie reviews, you know, for the school papers and whatnot. But I started to think more about screenwriting, production, wanting to be a director again, which was an idea I had when I was a very little kid, about 8. And I gave up on it because I figured, you'll never make it in that business. So be a film critic was my thing. But I watched episodes of Exo-Squad. I was also, in the time, I was very much into The Simpsons when it was The Simpsons, you know, the good stuff. I love The X-Files. I love shows like that. I was really getting into storytelling. And then the independent wave of cinema hit. We had movies like Clerks, Pulp Fiction. Those movies of 93, 94, and 95 were some of the greatest American movies ever made. And even the studio stuff was pretty good. Like you had Forrest Gump and Shawshank Redemption. They were just new kinds of movies that we've never seen before. And it was a perfect storm of great television, great movies. There was not a lot of good science fiction movies at the time, but there was a lot of great sci-fi television. We had Star Trek Next Generation was still going on for a little bit, and Deep Space Nine was going, and Babylon 5. And we had this show. And this show, to me, is the best out of all the 90s science fiction. And to me, for my money, Exo-Squad is the best American animated series of all time. I'll say it again. The best American animated series of all time, in my opinion, is Exo-Squad.